Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Editors Forum. My name is Malik Abbas Dabo. I am sitting in for your pretty host, Gifty Ando Apia. It was a week of whining without dining, of course, when a deputy minister was roasted for comments he made about whining. And of course, myself and my guests would delve into the matter and find out whether this man was roasted for nothing. And then we would deal with the unparliamentary comments by Sydney Casely Hayford, the financial analyst who got into trouble with members of parliament. Are the MPs taking power that they do not have? Are they themselves not responsible for the manner in which people view them? Should they heed to the caution given them by lawyer Akufo Addo that they should exercise restraint in the use of the power of contempt? We will deal with Mahama's appointment. I am talking about Edward Mahama, the man who has been appointed ambassador at large. You never heard it before until this appointment. Well, his party people are up in arms with him because they believe he ought to have consulted, something he failed to do. Some have even advocated that he should be expelled from the party. Do they have a justifiable cause to make this call? We would deal with the fall armyworm attack, which are ravaging farms across the country. If we still have time, we will deal with the learning death traps across the country and the unfortunate Asante Kotoko accident. This is Editors Forum. When we come back from the break, I will introduce my guest and we will settle for this discussion. Keep watching. You're welcome. You're watching Editors Forum, and this is the place where we sift through the noise and bring you unadulterated, undiluted commentary on the major issues making the news. And of course, we assemble here courageous, fearless journalists and editors to break down the issues. With me is my brother from another mother, Mumin. Chairman, welcome.
Thank you very much.
His full name is Abdul Hai Mumin, famous journalist from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, my brother from the Upper West region.
That's right.
I'm expecting Walanyo to join us from Metro TV. I hosted him here some time back. He had very explosive comments to make on the show. Walanyo will join us, but let me talk to Mumin. Mumin, welcome. This is your first time on this show.
My very first time.
Good to have you.
Of multimedia, both radio and TV.
Okay.
I'm very impressed about the infrastructure here, and when I go back, I'm going to report to my boss.
You are phoning on us. You are phoning on us because you have some of the latest equipment and the biggest facilities.
But it's amazing what you're able to do with the equipment I've seen here, and when I go back, like I said, we'll make amends.
You have a point. What was your big story for the week in terms of the news?
Unfortunately, when I tend to be a bit different from a lot of other people. When everybody else is going one way, I tend to focus on the things that other people don't consider very important.
Yeah, that makes you stand out.
Yeah, for me, the most important story was the declaration by the president that even if he were to lose his presidency, if he were to be made a one-term president because of his fight against Galamsey, he will still not mind.
Absolutely. It's actually one of the issues that we listed to deal with. Yeah. So let's start with that. When you heard the president talk to the chiefs in the manner that he did, remember that this was a prepared speech, right, and he was off the cuff, but he was frontal, he was frank.
Right.
And what did that tell you about the fight against Galamsey?
Just told me that this is not one of the usual rhetorics we usually hear from politicians, and that the fight against Galamsey, even though I did not hear much about it during the campaign, it's one that is on top of the priority list of this president. Again, as a journalist, I have been to some of the most endemic Galamsey-prone sites in the country. I've been to areas in the Upper East region, I've been to the Western region, and I've seen the damage Galamsey causes, not only to the environment, but also to individual lives. In the Talensi districts of the Upper East region, for instance, I have seen lives that have been distracted. I've seen education of young boys and girls completely destroyed and abruptly brought to an end because of the activities of Galamsey, to the extent that in these communities, young boys as young as 10 years old will tell you that we consider money more important than education. And so, and their parents would actually whip them to go onto the Galamsey sites and not encourage them to go onto,
because the earning, the benefits are immediate.
Exactly.
Unlike education, where it has to take years and years and years. So imagine you spend 6 years in basic school, 3 years as basic JHS, 3 years SHS, that's 12 years.
12 years.
And then you went to the university before you turned out.
And even then you are not guaranteed of a job immediately. So because the Galamsey presents them with an immediate quote-unquote solution to their problems, they see it as being more important than education. But again, for many of the girls in some of these areas, again, I'm concentrating on the Talensi and Nabdam areas where I really stayed for a period of time to monitor how Galamsey was affecting some of these children. Young girls, again, sometimes 13 years, 15 years, you find them around the Galamsey fields and they have children of their own. Wow. Because the other boys on the Galamsey fields who make the money use the money to lure them, deceive them, have their way with them, impregnate them, and do not accept responsibility for the pregnancies. And so you have a young girl who has a child. That child grows up in an area like that.
A child who has a child.
Exactly.
Because these young girls are children.
Exactly. And it's like a vicious cycle. Because these children also grow up in the same communities, see other young boys who would have also grown up to participate in activities on the Galamsey fields, offer themselves to them, have children for them, and then their children will come up.
Which is quite cyclical. Let's hear the president and the things that the president said when he met some chiefs in Accra here to admonish them to join the government's fight against Galamsey.
We established this committee within the government to design a policy for us, not just to stop it, to reclaim the land, to let our rivers work again, but also to see how we can figure a way for all these able-bodied young men who are involved in this activity to find an alternative livelihood. So it's a package. It's a package that we have designed to try and bring this menace to a conclusion. I am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter. I've heard it being said that I should be careful. Many of these people voted for me, and if I continue this exercise, perhaps they will not vote for me again. If by the grace of God I'm in a position, my party allows me to go again, and I have the health and everything to go again, that I'll not get it again. And I'll say to myself, well, this is a choice that all of us have to make as human beings. You do what you think is right, or do you do what you think will allow you to get along? I think that you do what you think is right. That is what you're required to do.
You're welcome, but you just heard the president, and that's what he said when he met some chiefs in Accra here to tell them, look, this is the time for you to get on board. And in the longer video, he actually spoke about the roles that chiefs themselves play in Galamsey, and the fact that in times past, it's chiefs who stood up in the fight against colonialism. The chiefs stood up in the fight to retain land in the hands of the chiefs. The chiefs stood up. This is the time they must stand up and help in the fight against this. Of course, we heard the president of the National House of Chiefs, Akufo Addo, talk about the fact that, look, the Supreme Court made a ruling on a matter which came before the court. And the court took away the power of the chiefs to summon people and to punish them. In his view, that has emasculated the chiefs somehow in how much they can contribute to the fight against corruption. Does Akufo Addo have a point?
I think he has a point to some extent, only to some extent, because if chiefs are allowed to have their own courts aside the normal courts that we are all aware of, to what extent will these chiefs not abuse the power that would have been handed over to them? To what extent will these chiefs also be answerable to our judicial system?
Yeah.
That is the question. But you see, to the extent that the chiefs, even though they do not have the power to punish, still have the power to, at least, I know in some communities today, banish people from their communities. They still have the power to say that, look, in this community, even though this person still lives here, nobody should say good morning or good afternoon or good evening to this person. They ostracize, they have the power to let a whole community ostracize some persons. For me, this is punitive enough.
In fact, it is only they who can give out the land.
Exactly.
Because nobody can take the land without them.
Exactly. And they are still custodians of the land. And so if you have the power to either give away the land or refuse to give it away, what other powers do you want? So to the extent that they have the power not to give out the lands, I think that is enough. So now we are talking about how come these galamseyers have access to lands. They have access to lands that are properly registered, sometimes in the names of the galamseyers, sometimes lands that belong to the communities, and yet, even with the knowledge of the community, nobody does anything about it. It means the suspicion that a lot of people do have, that the chiefs know about some
and
of
politicians. The president mentioned politicians and security chiefs.
Well, I don't have the evidence.
The president
about
actually
politicians,
mentioned them.
But I have told you that I've been to Galamsey sites, and to the extent that I spoke to chiefs, I even had evidence, core evidence, that some chiefs were involved. Wow. That's why I'm speaking to the issue of chiefs, because if I'm pressed, I can provide the evidence. Okay. But politicians...
Don't worry, nobody will sue you. The president mentioned it. You are covered.
Yeah, so for me, it's but looking at what the president has said, I'm just hoping that he doesn't go back on his own words. You remember the infamous dead goat statement.
Yeah.
I mean, it was as a result of a commitment of this nature. Okay. The president then said, look, he would do the right thing. He would not allow pressure from labor to force him to do things that will affect the economy.
Yeah.
On the issue of nurses' trainee allowances, he said he wasn't going to backtrack, and that the trainee allowances wasn't going to be reinstated.
Yeah, nurses and teachers training.
Eventually, what did we see in the lead up to election 2016? He backtracked. I'm just hoping that President Nana Addo will not backtrack when eventually we are heading towards another election.
Do you see steps that are being taken by the government as a unit? Because we hear that sometimes it is not the leaders themselves, but some people within the government sometimes are not in support of some of the actions. And already we had a member of parliament, an MPP MP, who was clearly against Galamsey and talking about how the ban on it will affect his constituents and their economic well-being and all of that. Are you convinced that President Nana Addo can bring along skeptics such as that MP in his own party to join the fight?
Just listening to the president speak the way he just spoke, and you play the soundbite right now, that even if it would mean that he will not have a second term, he will still go ahead to fight the issue of Galamsey. And he made a very important statement, which I noted down here, that he believes that he will do what is right and not what is convenient. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. If doing what is right will cost him his presidency, he says he doesn't care. So to that extent, if there's any member of his party or even his government who does not agree with him, then I think it's only fair for that person to drop off. Because the president has a vision. If you belong to his government, if you're a member of his government, you should be in line with that vision. To the extent that you believe in a different vision, it's only fair to yourself, to the rest of Ghana, to back off and let the president achieve the vision for which we all voted for him to put him in that office.
Absolutely. We have to take a short break at this point. When we come back, Walanyo has joined us. I'll be hearing from him his views on the president's commitment to the fight against Galamsey. You're watching Edit. Keep watching. You're welcome. You're watching Editors Forum, and our second guest, Walanya Nyonato. He is a senior political correspondent at Metro TV. He's joined us. Walanyo, welcome.
How are you?
The next time we're here, we have heated exchanges.
You didn't like my presentation too much. But
Today I have determined that I will clip your wings.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
Don't
Welcome.
worry. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm good. I was just talking to Mumin, and he said he heard President Addo talk about the fact that he's willing to put his presidency on the line to ensure that the fight against illegal mining, which we call locally as Galamsey, is sustained and the fruits are enjoyed by everyone. Did you follow what the president said? You must have.
Yes, I did, and I should want to say that the fight against Galamsey is on a two-front.
Okay.
There's a social front, there's the maybe three front, there's economic front, and then there's a political front. And I like the way the president sounded when he said that he's willing to put his presidency, on the line to fight against it. Because if you realize very carefully, the problem has not become just an internal problem. Ivory Coast has been affected because we have rivers that cross all the way from Ghana into Ivory Coast. And at some point, they like water processing companies here have had to shut down some of their plants. They have also, because they are downstream. The issue of Galamsey is a very complicated issue, okay, I should say. But for the president to risk advisedly his position and say that he's willing to risk it for political expediency,
that gives you some hope.
It gives some hope, a sort of hope, a kind of it. But you see, when you are in opposition, I've heard the president say that when he was campaigning in last year's, before the elections, he said that he's not coming to stop Galamsey. But now he's in office. That statement that he made politically, what's the meaning of it? Is it to restructure Galamsey? Is it to call up these young men?
His party said they will restructure. They will restructure the mining which is ravaging the environment.
But you see, I positioned the argument in three folds. I said there's a social, there's economic, there's political. The president has said something. This was a man who said something in 2016. Today,
what he's saying now hasn't actually contradicted what he said at the time.
Galamsey is still ongoing. How many people did we lose last week?
Yeah.
Is it like almost 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
They are still buried down there. It's still going on. In fact, the people have now changed their modus operandi, and today they are no more doing the Galamsey during the day. They are doing it in the night and in the evening.
At a controlled rate.
What do you define as control?
Not as brazen.
The social side of which we are unwilling to also admit is that the guys who are mining at a particular point, the ice water seller, my sister in the village, or your brother or your cousin who comes there to sell the kinky and sell the fish and the water, the guys are buying it. So at the village level, people are also getting sustained in a way who are not directly involved.
So they're being sustained by an unsustainable business.
Exactly. Now, the other side, the economic side of it is this. Do you know these local Galamseyers, as I'll call them, produce more gold to feed our local economy more than any of the so-called real regulated big mining companies in this country, because they take everything out.
But
go to PMMC.
The gold they produce, is it?
What they produce stays here.
Is it processed in Ghana?
No. What they produce here, they don't sell to anybody. Go and ask. Last year, local miners sold, this so-called Galamsey, sold more gold to our local economy than the real defined big mining companies.
Is this backed by any evidence?
There's evidence. I'm saying talk to PMMC. They will tell you where they are even getting their gold from. But for the president to say this, my question is this. Are the people who make up his government, do they agree with him?
Yeah, and it was a question I was asking.
Do they agree with him? Does it sit very well with the people? Because some of the people who form the president's government today campaign on the back of we are not going to stop Galamsey.
Well, they may have been.
And today it's become not
events.
an eternal issue. It's taking on a life of its own. It's affecting our neighbors. I was with the Environment, Science and Innovation Minister when the EU ambassador called on him, Dr. Frimpong.
Professor Frimpong Boateng.
Do you know we have Congolese mining in this country? Congo, as far as Congo, involved.
Yeah, there are Russians and all manner of
Ukrainians are here. So for me, it's not just a talk. Why? Mahama, what didn't he do? The soldiers went in there. After 4 or 5 months, what didn't we see? We had comments like, we would what's the word? The political term they've been using. We would
but obviously
we will reorient them and put them into tree planting and reclaim the land and all kinds of things. The tree you are even going to plant, are they economic trees?
But obviously, I think there's a general unanimity that this is a better coordinated fight against Galamsey.
Boss, who is coordinating anything?
No, but I don't get the point that Olanyo is making.
I'm only driving at the fact that the fight, it is easier for the president to come and say that we want this thing stopped, okay? But if you talk to people at the base, then you realize how complex this particular industry is.
Nonetheless, the president is determined to stop it.
If the president says it, it gives it some amount of weight. And so, no matter how complex the situation may be down there, because the president has assumed a certain posturing, everybody will then know that this man is...
I am buying into the president's statement.
No, but you make a point, sorry, but you say you justified Galamsey.
No, I'm not justified. I'm only looking...
No, you made a point that it gives jobs to the young girls in the local...
economy.
No, I'm drawing to a point.
You spoke about...
I'm drawing to a point. Let me conclude by saying this, that I'm only allowing us to look at certain realities, plus what the president has said. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I am for what the president said. I'm all out for it. But let us be very careful. You see, comments don't work. Comment don't act.
Do you think they're doing something beyond talking?
That's what I'm saying. That
have you seen things that you think are beyond talking?
If I have not seen anything, we just lost about 14 or 17 people recently, in less than 2 weeks ago. You understand what I'm saying? It should tell you that people they will hear what the president...
Nonetheless, have you seen actions in the form of fight against Galamsey?
What action?
Well, I have seen action.
In certain places.
But you just said that now they do the Galamsey in the night, which means
no, it means
an action
what I'm saying is that
not do it
now
publicly as used to be the case.
It is easier for me to say that, sit on this platform and say that Galamsey has stopped. It is easy for us to say we've seen certain
I'm not sure
actions.
anybody is saying that.
But what I'm saying is that, you see, as much as the president has spoken, is giving orders, maybe certain security applications are being deployed physically on the ground. The question is, how are the local people also reacting? You understand what I'm saying?
The local people, they will push back.
They will push back.
But the government is determined.
Because you see, that is a serious side of the argument where we need to examine.
I think the president recognizes that because the government
he appreciates it. He understands that it has not only become our problem, it has also become an international problem. Gradually, it's become a regional, sub-regional problem. But as much as I support the president in saying that we must not compromise, I am also for the position that care should be taken in how we handle this matter.
Okay, Mui, your last comment so that we can move on to...
You see, gold is not a renewable resource. Once they deplete all the gold resources underneath the grounds, wherever it may be found, the story ends there. But the consequences...
And these same people will still be alive.
They will still be alive.
At that time,
after
how would
10
they
years,
live?
20 years, how is that pure water seller who is benefiting today from just about 20 Ghana cedis a day going to live in the next 10 years?
You see, moment, let me come in here. I'm not cutting you, but what I'm saying is this. You see, the issue is not just at the level of the pure water seller. You have done stories. I have gone to some of these areas, and people who have been engaged, families that have been engaged in cocoa farming for decades, 3-5 generations. Today are saying that cocoa will take 3-4 years, but today I can get my gold money today. And their lands, they are in some places. So the cocoa farmers willingly gave out
they
their
forget
lands.
that 40 years from now, their
That's
children
what I'm
may not
saying,
have
that
that
the
gold.
issue is more complicated than you just
The
sending
issue is
military
not. It is
men
we
in
who
there.
are complicating it, isn't it?
No,
Because
you see,
Walanyo, there is no doubt.
we have always
the
had traditional mining.
Walanyo, hold on.
Wait,
The
we have always
philosophy
had traditional
now.
mining in a way.
Hold on.
We have always had traditional mining in a way, but it had always been regulated at a certain level by the chiefs and at a certain level by the local laws, by the community laws.
Yeah, which we call artisanal.
But what we are having now is even beyond.
It's uncontrolled, unregulated.
That is what I'm saying. So
that's the point.
You see,
so and it is not sustainable.
You see,
it's not
No
sustainable.
matter what
but
the benefits are today, it is not sustainable.
I'm not saying it is sustainable. But what I'm driving at is that we should fight it. We should find a way to stop it, or we find a way to regulate it.
That's what the government said
For me,
to do.
that's it. And so in regulating it, how do we go about it?
I think the government says they are rolling out a plan to do that.
You see,
What plan is that?
When they roll it out, you will see.
I still disagree a lot with Wolanyo's point of view, because you see, the same approach you are asking for is the approach we have used in the fight against, hawkers in Accra, decongestion of our major cities across the country. We always say, let's give it.
Is it not that the argument at a point we lose it because at a certain point these presentations take on a political life of their own because of the actors who lead or
Yes, but now the president is saying, I will not allow politics to come in my way. If politics will come in my way, I will be willing
I am for the president, but I can tell you that that statement, even within the president's own domain,
we know that. I mentioned an MP we mentioned an MP.
That's what I'm saying. That
but there are times when there is political will.
The MP doesn't need to be a minister, but what I'm saying, the MP is a party person.
Let's separate party from government.
Yeah.
No,
We have the party.
We should find a way to.
Nanado is the president of Ghana, not the president of his party. And he says, as the president of my country, this is my vision. I will achieve this vision, even if it will cost me my presidency. Or the least we can do is to give him the support and encouragement.
But I think that Nanado's statement probably did not mean we should stop all forms of it in terms of illegal mining, but probably
but that's what
he
they
was
have
saying
been saying
that
all along,
that
because we have heard
they
Peter
would
say,
put a formula in place and then find a way to effectively regulate it.
Then it's no more galamsey. Then it becomes small-scale mining,
which is
legal,
regulated, done under the law, and done properly, which does not affect our water
That's
bodies.
what I'm driving at.
Because nobody is going to give you a license and tell you to go and mine on a river.
The people don't even have licenses in any ways.
Yeah, that's the point. It's the reason
But you
why
see,
you must
there's
stop
one
it.
funny thing
no matter
that-
what the benefits
there's
are, no
one
matter
funny
which
thing-
pure water seller is affected.
There's one funny thing that all of us fail to admit, that the huge mining companies, in fact, under our current mining laws, they are allowed to divert rivers, like the same way these illegal miners
Yes.
are mining and diverting the course of rivers and lakes and all.
The
those
law
things.
allows it.
They are also doing it and polluting and doing all kinds of things.
No.
But
At
what
this
I'm-
point,
no. I'm not going to mention about this, but what I'm saying is this: look, this Galamsey issue, I think currently, apart from the Volta Lake, which is also being polluted in some way because of we have some illegal Chinese fish farmers also they're doing their own things. I think technically to an extent, the longest lake we have or clean water we have, fresh water we have currently, is the Volta Lake. And do you know the reason why? The reason is because from that end, the chiefs will not just sit back and then look at you.
which is a point we were making earlier about
I support
the
him.
involvement of the chiefs.
That's
that
it.
The
I support him.
the president challenged
I support my
the
brother on
chiefs.
that. But what I'm saying is this, that it is not going to be an easy fight.
Yeah, you've made that point.
It's not going to be an easy campaign. It's not going to be, because you see, in one vein, if I tell women right now, go and sit in the house, stop mining, don't do anything for the next 6 months. Clearly, what am I even giving him?
See, so that brings me back to the issue of the hawkers that we have failed to fight against. It's the same argument we have always come up with, that if we take them off the streets,
where would they go?
No, they will go to the market.
And they educate their children selling on the streets.
But
the mining is...
What you haven't spoken about so far are the negative effects Galamsey has on the generality of our communities. Earlier, I spoke about pregnancies. A lot more young girls in these Galamsey communities are getting pregnant with the men not accepting responsibility for the children who are born as a result of
I think I admitted to the fact that there's a social side, there's an economic, and then there's a political side.
Hold on, let him finish.
You know, and again, have you thought about the number of illiterates we are likely to churn out in the next 20 years? People who would have considered Galamsey more important than education. And after 5 or 10 years, when there's no more gold to mine, what becomes of these people? Are we looking at the unripe mangoes of today or the ripe mangoes we are likely to consume tomorrow? I think we should concentrate on the mangoes of tomorrow rather than the unripe ones of
on
today.
that note, I'd like to move on another subject I believe won't divide opinion on this table. And I'm talking about...
No, we don't have a divided opinion. I'm only probably letting my side of the argument be...
Moving on. We are talking about Sidney Casely Hayford. The man who said if he had his way, he will break down Parliament because they sit there, they spend money like crazy, and they pass stupid laws. They don't read the documents that come before them. Now he says, well, with the benefit of hindsight, I think I went overboard. If any parliamentarian felt slighted by what I said, I apologize and I am sorry. Should we let go, or the MPs, Ras Mubarak is pushing that, and I'm talking about Member of Parliament for Kumbungu. He says he should be hauled before the Privileges Committee of Parliament and then punished, so that that can serve as a deterrence so that people won't keep saying these kinds of scandalous things about Parliament.
Am I taking a bite on that?
Let me start with Mumi.
Interesting. Do I have any protection? Should I say something?
Because you're an editor. You're an editor. Speech is protected.
Exactly. So that's
you're an editor. Your speech is protected.
I want to. What then becomes of the freedom of speech? I think it's become one too many.
But there are limitations on free speech.
Limitations to the extent that I say something against a parliamentarian, the man says parliamentarians spend money. Not too long ago.
Like crazy. You said they spend money like crazy.
Well,
and they pass stupid laws.
And you see, because stupid, what does it mean? Is it an insult?
It means the laws are...
Is it a description of something that you think does not make enough sense? If I say you don't make enough sense, is that an insult? If I said to you, what you are telling me is nonsense, would you consider that an insult?
Well, in Ghanaian terms, in our own context, nonsense and stupid are serious insults.
When we go to Parliament, is
it a
Ghanaian context? Our Parliament is borrowed from the US and from the British. Do we have a Ghanaian Parliament? The structure?
It's a Ghanaian Parliament.
No, is our structure Ghanaian? The language we use, is it Ghanaian?
Our parliament is Ghanaian because the UK you are citing, they don't have their parliament is sovereign. Our parliament is not sovereign.
But you see, all I'm talking about is the freedom of expression. Are we now being gagged by Parliament? Not too long ago, one of your own staff here was hauled before the Privileges Committee of Parliament, Black Rasta, and some others in the past have gone to answer questions before that committee. But let's look at even parliamentarians themselves. And I'm not going too far back. Just as close as 2 or 3 months ago, in the Parliament itself, in the Chamber of Parliament itself, we had MPs openly, before cameras, TV cameras, exchanging words, using unprintable words against each other on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah, but that's in Parliament. It doesn't mean that you, the outsider, can on your own.
So now we live in an animal farm where some are more equal than others, that parliamentarians can use the word stupid against each other, and yet I, the ordinary man on the streets of Accra, cannot use the same word. They're supposed to set examples for us to follow. If Parliament needs to have that dignity, that respect, the respect must, first of all, emanate from the members themselves. I have on numerous occasions, and where I work, and the program I host, there are some category of MPs that we will never invite. I won't mention names here. But we think that they are not...
You're saying what Justice V.C. R.A.C. Krapp said, that there are people who don't deserve to be in Parliament.
They have said things that are very unparliamentary, and to the extent that we, people in the media, even think that when we invite them on our platforms, they will say things that we consider to be undignified.
And you have to issue
disclaimers
upon disclaimers.
And so until Parliament itself becomes responsible and begin to show the way to go, I think they are being unfair to all of us by constantly reminding us that they are this powerful and nobody else can say A or B against them except they themselves. Let them set the example. Let every parliamentarian live by the title honorable. When we meet them, we call them honorable. In fact, I have just been told that it's supposed to be, if you were the member of parliament for multimedia...
Why?
You want why?
That's my constitution.
So I'm supposed to address you, Honorable MP for Why is Mr. Malik Dabo. But I will call you Honorable Malik. That should tell you the amount of respect the ordinary Ghanaian has for the member of parliament. But to the extent that those same members of parliament will come out on TV, on radio, trade accusations and insults against each other. We hear them, we see them do this. And so we only think it's normal that if you were found telling another person on the floor of parliament that he was stupid, and some of the words I can't even use on air. I'm sure you heard them, Malik.
Absolutely. But Walanyo.
Yes.
Mumin's point is some MPs themselves do not behave in a manner which is deserving of honorable, the title they have. And of course, Mumin just was right. We have turned the title upside down. The proper address, in fact, the honorable is attached to the constituency and not the MP. So like he was using me, you would say, Mr. Malik Abbas Dabo, the honorable member of parliament for Wa East. So the honorable is actually not attached to me, it's attached to the constituency. Be that as it may, they claim it, and we call it. I don't know how many of us call them by their names anyway. We call them honorable.
Yes, honorable.
Mumin is critical of them, but the comments that were made, the man who made the comments himself, on the benefit of hindsight, says he thinks he went overboard. He was too passionate and he ought not to have said what he said.
You know what? This is an interesting issue you want me to speak on.
No explosive explosions.
I'm not going to explode. I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to say it as it is.
Thank you. You are kind today.
I'm not going to be kind to anybody, but the facts are facts. The very moment you step out of the boundaries of parliament, the word title honorable, you don't even have it. That was the education I got. It is when you are within the premises of parliament, that is when, so I can meet you or Mumen and they say, just mention his name and it's okay. But by extension, I think the Ghanaian populace, we've taken our Ghanaianness a bit too far. In parliament, we sat in this country. A member of parliament accused his own colleagues of taking bribes. We sat in this country. And a number of things have gone on. We've seen parliamentarians fight.
Yeah, but it happens everywhere. It doesn't mean that outsiders can lamp up parliamentarians and say they pass stupid laws.
Please. And these are the people we are paying to go sit and make laws for myself and then your good self. What did the man say? Why should he be hauled before some? And I'm so annoyed at the. I may be hauled before them. I'm prepared to even appear anyway.
Not on my show.
Not on your show. Not on your show. But the fact is, this and privileges committee. Privileges. committee. What committee? What did the man say? The things Kesselhefer said, were they the truth? Is it a reminder to members of parliament to behave?
They don't pass stupid laws. They may pass laws that you disagree with, but not, you can't lump up all the laws and say they are stupid laws.
Which of the laws are working in this country anyways?
But it is not the job of parliament to enforce laws.
You see.
But Walanyo, let's be fair.
So
it is not the job.
You want me to be fair to the issue, but you are not being fair to me and being fair to Kesselhefer by saying that, what is it that he meant by stupid?
He said they pass stupid laws. Your response is which law is working, and I'm saying it is not the job of
only in this country that I can look at
enforce laws.
It is only in this country that I can look at women's face and they say, "Don't be silly." What do you mean? Even the meaning of the word, what do you mean? Somebody says, "I've insulted him." What was the man speaking about? Have we looked at the issues? Ras Mubarak. Some years ago, just recently, some 4, 5, 6 years ago, when Mills was president.
I remember that I published.
So what is he talking about?
I published a lot of the articles he wrote
against Mills. So what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Because therefore, what should be done to him? What is he talking about? We had a president. He was not an MP then. He was an active member of the NDC, a faction that disagreed with Mills. When late Mills, Professor Mills was president. What were some of the things that he said? I don't think you want me to repeat them on your... No. So today, this same person, you see, when you are coming to ask for something, they say he who comes to ask for whatever it is...
He who comes to equity
should come with clean hands. What is he asking for? Kesselhefer should be done what? He's a fine gentleman. I respect so much. I feel that he has come out publicly and done he has rather done the honorable thing. He has done the honorable thing. Boss, as I speak to you today, the Ayariga bribery issue, till date, Ayariga still refuses to accept the committee that investigated him.
I thought he apologized.
They said the law says you should apologize. But the question is, did the man accept? Even when he needed to apologize, he said, they say I should apologize, so I am apologizing. They say.
The second time, I remember, there was a second apology.
So it should tell you that the man is still not convinced.
He said it was
even within him.
On that occasion, I remember.
No, I'm saying that even the first time, for him to come out to say, they say I should say I'm sorry. And then for him, he was virtually cajoled or compelled to do this.
Yeah, because he couldn't substantiate.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. We have parliamentarians today who are threatening the current president. Have Parliament not seen that? We have parliamentarians today who are saying we are members of the New Patriotic Party and they dare the president. They are daring the president. They are daring the chief of staff. They are daring National Security Minister. They are doing all kinds of things. And I'm saying that is the Privileges Committee. Are they blind to these people in their midst? Because the Privileges Committee is not a committee that is being formed in some church or Makwala or some place and being brought to parliament. It's the same parliamentarian who...
But if an MP is daring the president, what has it got to do with the integrity of parliament? He hasn't called the integrity of parliament.
You see the language in daring the president, you see the language that these MPs are using to dare the president, the intemperate nature of it should even cause the Privileges Committee to act and not wait for anybody to come and read any statement on the floor of parliament like Ras Mubarak did and said that Kesselhefer is just a small fish. What are they going to do to him?
Well,
what are they going to... No, I'm saying, what are they going to do to him?
Movement has...
Yes,
you sit on this platform, I sit on this platform. Movement sits here. Maybe for his platform, to an extent to my platform also, we may not be able to say some things. But I'm saying that we have met MPs, we have seen them in certain things today. We cannot sit on this platform and openly declare them. So who are they affecting?
Two basic questions.
What are they talking about here?
MPs themselves accused each other ever before of spending money? Yes. Have MPs themselves accused each other of not reading the bills before they pass them? Yes.
Do they read them?
I mean, what's the point here? So the man has just come back to reiterate what MPs have said about themselves.
Yes, but but MPs say it, and Mumi, you and I know that what is said on the floor of the House is privileged.
Privileged.
That if an MP says whatever they say, you can bring a suit of defamation against them. So they may say
so what is the public space? What is the public sphere then? Where do we come in as a public?
Hold on. They may say so, Mumin. It doesn't mean that the fact that they criticize themselves, and you're talking about MPs talking about fellow MPs taking money. We remember, what's his name? Alban Bagbin, who was a majority leader, minority leader. Now he's a deputy speaker of parliament, talk about MPs take bribe. We heard Mama Yarga talk about MPs taking money. We've heard PC Apia Ofori talk about MPs taking money to pass a Vodafone sale. Yes, but it does not mean that a non-member of parliament can make scandalous, unsubstantiated allegations because some MP said so.
I am sad. I'm sad you are using the word scandalous.
And unsubstantiated for me.
What do you mean by that?
Two questions. I asked you, haven't MPs spoken about spending money? The NLA issue, for instance, and your network is very much on that case.
Yes.
What are we seeing? On the issue of the allegations that Honorable Ayaraga leveled against his own colleagues. What was it about?
Well,
was it
no
about
evidence.
money?
There was no evidence.
Is that what you call it? Or is that what you call it?
There was no evidence.
Is that what
was
you
there
call
evidence?
Look, can I ask you a question? We sat in this country for a foreign entity to blacklist some of our MPs. Because at various times, I mean the UK mission, I'm talking about the United Kingdom High Commission in this country, to come out.
So for the next 10 years,
for the next 10 years,
will not be giving visas.
What happened? Is that parliamentary? Till date, Parliament itself has not even, I don't know what is even good, whether they formed a committee or they are finding a way to even sanction or punish this MP.
Can be so unnice. So you won't talk for them even small.
No, I'm not talking. I'm not saying I'm talking for them. At various points, at one point it was my girlfriend. The same MP goes, it is my daughter. At another point, it's my wife. How many wives have these MPs? Look, the word stupid, I think the man was a bit charitable even with them.
Thank you. We will leave it there. Well, you won't say anything on this.
You don't want me to
you won't say anything on this matter
and
again.
I'm appealing to. No, there's a section of the public who wants to know the truth. We are tired of this honorable boss. Anything. Have you been to Parliament before? Have you been to Parliament?
Thank you.
In the lead up to the 2016 election, in the lead up to the 2016 election, I heard parliamentarians refer to the sitting president as incompetent.
Was that an insult?
That's not a very pleasant word if you were in the president's shoes.
Well,
but if that wasn't an insult, stupid should not be an insult.
Well, but the executive do not have contempt powers. It's Parliament that has. If you say something which Parliament doesn't like, the law allows them to hold you before them and punish you. I
think the man shouldn't feel threatened. The man shouldn't. Kessil Hayford shouldn't feel threatened. Look, let me tell you.
But if he goes there, he will apologize.
He will still go and say, "I'm sorry." He has already done that. So why are you holding him?
You remember Professor Dodu? Professor Dodu.
I'm saying that they have. If you see, until we begin to stop this nonsense of. It is like this.
Well, we agree that you won't use that on machine.
Conventions, and here we are in this country. Nothing is getting done. Okay, even filth on our streets. Formally, if you are dropping a filth, there was nobody behind you. But when you are dropping even that rubber, it felt as if Bibi were mature. Today we don't even have it because everything has been conventionalized, and we are suffering in this country. Somebody gets up and says, if I had the opportunity, I would break down Parliament. Parliament should rather be interested in calling that person and say, what is it that you are communicating? Which part of society sentiment are you communicating to us?
I agree with you, both Mumin and Walanyo.
And the so-called young man who has never worked, he has never worked for the public service today as an MP, is calling for somebody to be hauled before what?
Well, I'm easy.
I am questioning Ras Mubarak. He can take me.
My point.
Ras Mubarak went with GBC.
He went with GBC.
GBC for how many years?
I used to follow. I think with Radio Gold as well. He used to be a reggae
what? Please, we are serious. Please be fair to him. I'm being fair to him. I'm saying that for how many years has he contributed to the development of this country?
Yeah, but you can't question his contribution.
Okay, so he can also question the position of Slayford by saying that if he had the opportunity, he will break down that house. Probably the man is communicating something that we are failing.
The man has apologized. You are pushing what the man himself has apologized. Is that with the benefit of hindsight?
I won't apologize anyways.
Well, I think that my point was Parliament should be more concerned about how people view the House and MPs.
How do they even view themselves? How do they even view themselves for us to go to the point that moment here today, he goes to Parliament and, hey, Honorable, I was actually threatened by an MP in Parliament because I was profiling him as, I will not mention his name, as a possible candidate to Nanado in 2012. And names came up. So we were profiling all these personalities. And I had approached an MP thinking that as a journalist, the right thing to do after talking to experts on their strengths and weaknesses and what they bring to add to the opportunities or the chances of the candidate. I went to Parliament, and this man is in fact, he occupies a very important position. He looked me in the face and threatened me. So I also looked at me and told him that I'm going to do mine. He said, you sue me in court. I said, no problem. Finally, I looked him in the face. I said, you sue me, I'll still go ahead and do. Well, Anya, I think
the bigger point is MPs should be concerned.
We should not criminalize speech. You see, what they are doing gradually is that they are going to box every expert who wants to speak freely and can change society's course. Parliament, if we are not very careful, what I'm driving at is that the so-called privileges or whatever it is committee that they call themselves, I don't know what is privileged about them, that society's professionals, people who write about society, research about us, cannot speak freely. Then we are, boss, I don't think that
you have made your point. I think the bigger point is, whilst Parliament may have contempt powers to punish people,
but I doubt the Speaker will even grant this to us.
Take it easy.
The Speaker shouldn't grant it.
I think that the bigger point is Parliament should be worried about how, in the minds of the average Ghanaian, how do they view the House?
Exactly.
It may be the case that because you are holding a big gavel over everybody's neck, they won't say it. But what is their perception about you? What is their disposition towards you? Do they have a positive disposition? Do they believe that Parliament is made up of honorable men, or they believe that Parliament is made up of dishonorable men? So when people make these kinds of comments, instead of inviting them and punishing them, you should be worried about the fact that people harbor these thoughts and they actually make them public.
But I think that even before society begins to ask these questions, we must ask ourselves certain basic questions. First of all, why, if indeed it is the case that parliamentarians love money, and I'm using this hypothetically, why would that be the case? When you go to Parliament in the morning, while the parliamentarian is in the chamber debating some issue, you are likely to have at least 20 people waiting to see him. And all these 20 people are waiting to see him for financial support,
to money problems.
Weddings, outdooring ceremonies, and so on, and school fees, and so on and so forth. Where is the parliamentarian who earns just about 8,000 Ghana cedis or so going to get the money to foot all these bills? And this is not just a one-off visitation by constituents. It's a daily occurrence. So we put undue pressure on parliamentarians to start with. Number two, if a parliamentarian were to leave Parliament after 4 years and doesn't have another house aside the one he used to live in, if he doesn't have a 4x4 V8 vehicle, the same Ghanaian who is insulting him today for being corrupt and for loving money will be the one who said he's a useless man. What did he even do for himself when he was in Parliament? Yes. And so we, if you like, we force them to engage in some of these activities, and then we turn around to blame them for doing the same things that we encourage them to do. I find that as a very huge paradox.
I remember this MP who had been in Parliament for 12 years, and then he left the seat, and then he went back to teach. he was virtually the laughing stock in his community because many couldn't imagine how somebody who had been MP for 12 years will come back and go and teach. And they lampooned and vilified and mocked him.
Malik, let me tell you something.
So the problem is us.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. You see, Agor, when they lost the elections, what did he do? He went back to write, went back to lecture back in some of the universities in the United States. I am beginning to understand my brother's position that MPs are not just lawmakers. Some of them have become pennies all of a sudden, they're paying funeral, health bills, school fees,
and if you don't pay, if you don't pay, that means your chances of being re-elected again is diminished.
That's it. And every weekend, you've got to take a trip to your constituency.
Right.
For some funeral, for something, for some small issue, you would have to be there.
Yeah.
What is it that these MPs even say in the first place to our people to vote them? What do you say? As an MP, you are coming, you want to be voted for. What are some of the promises that you are basically a lawmaker?
But
you are not even in the executive to even oversee that they are deploying some projects.
But Walanya, you recognize that if you don't promise them those juicy things, nobody is going to vote you.
So why shouldn't I come to Parliament and wait for you in the lobby and
go and tell the people that oh, you come and make fine laws and see whether they will vote for you.
They don't care about that. And it's also based on the fact that the nature of the politicking in itself, that's what I'm talking about, is very problematic.
So it's the people, it's not the MPs.
It is also that if at a certain point, you see, we profit from politics anyways. Let us not joke about it. We profit seriously from politics.
As individuals.
Not just as individuals or the government we belong to or the parties we belong to. It's across the world. We profit in politics is huge. You understand? Yeah. So you don't joke. Sorry, you don't joke around that and say that when you come to stand on the platform, whilst your opponent is giving huge promises, you come and stand there and want to sound truthful in quote. You would also be forced to speak.
So we should lie.
So what I'm talking about is that, you see, feeding that very thing into Kingsley Hayforth's statement, which we are discussing now. My only concern is that this is a man who has engaged a lot at the social level. You understand? He has engaged a lot at the social level. He's written a lot. He's done a lot of research. My take on his so-called stupid laws, I am saying that we should be interested in the man's position. Yes, he has come out and said, I spoke, passionately about an issue. I don't think the man hates this country. I don't think the man hates any parliamentarian. I don't think the man hates this society. In fact, what he was driving at the end of the day was some sort of a betterment situation to the things that he was talking about.
The dean of the Gimpa Law School, Mr. Akufo Addo. His point is, in the exercise of its contempt powers, Parliament has to be careful not to be seen as emasculating free speech.
No, but I've made that point that, you see, what eventually is going to happen is that, Professor, what's the name? Addo.
Professor Stephen Addo.
Stephen Addo came out recently.
Gimpa rector.
Said all manner of things about parliamentarians. Said all manner of things about what is different from his speech. He was so direct. You understand what I'm saying?
But the fact that they didn't punish him doesn't mean that they can't punish
this double standard. That's why I say that, Malik, if you want me to appear on this program, allow me to speak and appeal to the people who want to listen to me. You have invited me here.
But answer this question for me.
But I'm asking.
Answer this question for me. You are talking about profiting from politics.
Yes.
We know that the flag bearer of the PNC, People's National Convention, Dr. Edward Mahama,
Yes.
has been appointed ambassador at large. Before his appointment, had you heard it before, ambassador at large?
Oh, it has always been there.
Okay,
It's
so
not a
you
new
knew-
post.
you knew
It's
about
not,
it.
it's not a new post.
Okay.
It's not a new post.
So those who sought to lampoon the appointment didn't know what they were talking about?
No. I've heard Ayariga come out to say that.
You're talking about Hassan Ayariga.
Hassan Ayariga saying that he's an errand boy. No. You see, let us be very careful. In Kufuor's era, we saw people appointed from other political parties into his government. In Mahama's time, Mills's time, we saw a certain level of inclusiveness. We would not be, it might not be complete necessarily to say that we are practicing an all-inclusive government. But you see, the person who has been appointed, who is he? You understand? I want to take the argument a little bit and be fair to the doctor. Like many of his compatriots who were trained outside of this country, they chose never to come into this country. You understand? Like the Dr. Frimpong Boateng that we have today. They have trained a lot of people. They chose to come back. You understand what I'm saying? Who is this personality we are talking about? The president didn't just appoint anybody. He appointed a leader of another political party. What does it mean? What is the president trying to tell us?
Let Mumin answer that for me. Mumin,
No, I thought you'd have allowed me to.
No, let me come back to Mumin before I come back to you. So this party that Walanja just talked about, he's a leader of a political party. Some other leaders of that party now say he didn't consult. Is he obliged to consult? Should he have consulted?
Let me first of all make a confession that unlike my brother, the term ambassador at large was the first time I heard it.
You had never heard it?
I had never heard it before. It was my first time. Just like it was my first time when I heard ambassador plenipotentiary.
What's the name?
I can say straight away that he didn't stay the government to speak.
But I didn't say the government.
So
it was
it's
my
obvious.
first time, and so every day is a learning process.
Oh
for
no,
us.
they have always been there. They have always been there. You know, it's not a new post. It's not, but I believe that
in the Fourth
this
Republic,
one.
I believe this is the first time.
No, it's not the first time. I listened to the deputy foreign minister on radio, and he actually gave a litany of evidences. In fact,
maybe none of them was a high-profile person, so nobody paid attention.
It wasn't as profound as we are seeing.
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying, that for the president to appoint a leader of another political party, it was just natural that the uproar from his own party people and the surprise from some sections of the Ghanaian populace was to be expected.
Okay, so Mumin,
I do not know what the constitution of the PNC says, but I'm going to speak on general terms, considering what I know about the constitution of the NPP and the NDC. When a party, loses power, the presidential candidate ceases to be the leader of that party.
Maybe the
leadership
becomes
of the party then falls on the shoulder of the party chairman, and then the day-to-day running falls on the general secretary of the party. Okay. And so that leaves the presidential candidate basically without any portfolio.
So in this case, Bernard Mona is a chairman of the party. Atik Mohammed is the general secretary.
And so I am assuming that naturally they are the leaders of the party. Dr. Edward Mahama would be referred to as the former presidential candidate of the PNC in the 2016 election. And that's where it ends. So he's an individual who can be approached by anybody with any appointment, and he can decide in his individual capacity to either accept or reject that appointment. Yeah. And I believe that this appointment came to him as an individual. Don't forget that this will not be the first time anybody from the PNC has been appointed in any capacity by any government. Bernard Mona himself, in 2009 thereabouts, he was appointed by President Mills to be part of the committee
that
was seen to the celebration of the Nkrumah's 100 years and so on. And so I
think he was secretary to that committee.
He was even secretary to that committee. And so if Bernard Mona today,
government, that's just an agency. I mean, just a group that he was part of.
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it.
Was he performing a national assignment?
He was. And he was answerable to the president of the time. I don't see any difference here. If their constitution
maybe he consulted the party. Their point is that Dr. Edward Mama didn't consult them. And he himself, his explanation has been that he wanted it to be firmed up before.
Malik, I was hold on. Really allow me to finish.
Hold on. Dr. Edward Mama himself, what he told us, I hope that my guys have the clip so that we could play it. That he wanted it to be firmed up before he would consult them. He says some of the leaders were aware. But if the General Secretary and the National Chairman were not aware, there must have been a failing on his part.
Well, it's still a matter, if you ask me, it's still a matter of an individual and his choice. He decides to accept, like I said, in my point of view, Dr. Edward Mahama occupies no position today within the PNC.
Yeah.
He's an ordinary member of the PNC. I will only backtrack on my argument if the PNC comes out to say that every member of our party, wherever he is in this country or outside, if he receives invitation to serve in any capacity outside of a government formed by our party, must first of all consult the party. Then I'll backtrack. Otherwise, I think that Dr. Edward Mahama reserves the right to accept or reject any offer presented to him by anybody, including the president, at any point in time, or reject it in his individual capacity. I don't see anything untoward here.
You're watching Editors Forum. My guests are Walanyo Nyanato, strong man, political correspondent, Metro TV, and Abdulhai Mumin. He's a news editor. He's an anchor at Ghana Television. He's a big man. And we have been talking about a number of issues. We have dealt with the president's comment about his commitment to the fight against corruption. And then did I say fight against corruption? The fight against Galamsey. He's committed to fighting against corruption too anyway. And then, of course, we spoke about the unparliamentary comments made by Sydney Casely Hayford and the fact that Parliament wants to roast him. My guests don't quite agree. They think that what he said didn't deserve what he's saying. Then Edward Mama's appointment. We will move on and deal with whiners. Whining. It's been a week of whining. And someone said there was no dining.
You have allowed me to take my last bite on the...
Okay, so you have 30 seconds to do that, then we can deal with the
I want to say that Dr. Edward Mahama is an experienced state personality. And he brings a lot to bear on national issues.
What does the ambassador at large do anyway?
Oh, I mean, he could represent the president particularly at certain international forums.
Now that's where I have a problem. What's the use of the Minister for Foreign Affairs then?
Oh, no, not just the Minister for Foreign Affairs. You see, like in Parliament, there are certain bills that comes that are technical in nature. You understand? That is why sometimes the committees meet because they feel you have the understanding of what it is about a particular field. So you people should meet and be able to make the larger house understand the nitty-gritties of certain things. So I don't think that he's just there to just be pushing around by the president. But what I'm saying is that at certain point, he might bring certain advices, certain tidbits.
Pieces of advice.
That's it. That would affect national decisions or policy decisions by the president. And so I am not for it that he's just there to be pushed around and all those things.
Let me just respond to Mumin's point about what's the job of the foreign minister. Usually, these ambassadors, you have ambassadors at large and you have ambassadors in residence. The ambassadors in residence are those, for example, Ghana's High Commissioner to the UK. He cannot go and deal with any matters outside of that country. He's stuck there. If you're sent to Namibia or Uganda or Tanzania or Russia or US, you stay where you are.
Right.
The ambassador at large has a free role to play. And those of you who like football, you know that there are some players who play everywhere. And they tend to be sometimes the star players. They play everywhere.
Yeah.
They can play in any role. So he can represent the president in a number of countries, and he will be accorded the respect as a representative of the president.
And so where he goes to a country where we already have an ambassador,
he comes there and he's actually higher in terms of rank than the ambassador.
That is why I position the argument within the context that
so if there's a dispute between two countries, there's a dispute between 2 or 3 countries, and Ghana has an interest, he can play a mediation role in all of that as ambassador at large. That's how these things
If there's a health issue, for instance, we know he's a health professional, for instance, and we need certain inputs, for instance, from an experienced person who is not just at the top but has been at the ground and has worked to, you know, understand some of these issues. This is a person we can always fall on, because he's not just at the top, but somebody has gone through the mill to get to the top and understands the issue, and what he brings to bear on the final decisions, for instance, does not only speak from the side of a purely a politician's point. So the foreign minister probably might attend a summit probably in New York at the UN, something to do with probably there's a virus outbreak and how we should contain it and all those things. These are the people who probably can bring in a bit more weight to bear on the issues and say, okay, this we are from this region, and if we go about it this way, which technically is not just speaking as a politician, an appointed person by a politician, but
a diplomat,
but a person who really understands.
In fact, in some other jurisdictions, the ambassador at large tends to be the country's representative to the UN. That's how influential his portfolio is.
But you see, the conversation has centered so much around Dr. Edward Mahama that we often forget that there's another person. There are actually 2 of them.
Yeah, there are 2 of them. Yes. So usually what the government will do is to list the countries where they are expected to operate. So for example, they can say your operational area is Africa. So you represent the country's interest in any African country. So wherever the country's interest is at stake, you go there. There will be an ambassador in residence, but you come as an additional layer with more clout and more influence to deal with the country's interest in what other jurisdiction.
I'm just anxious to see what results we get from all of these appointments. Already we have 110
ministers,
and a lot of people are already saying that we are not seeing
the impact of
the 110 ministers, and to the extent that now we have ambassadors at large and so on and so forth.
Which many people did you know?
Maybe 6 months is too short for a government.
Be careful before you are accused of whining.
yes, whining.
That brings us to whining. If we have the lengthier submission of Robert Ahom Kalinse, Deputy Trade Minister, let's take it so that we can come back and talk about what he said. Was he misunderstood? When I watched the longer version, I came out believing that I had been unfair to him in comments I made on radio. I think that we overreacted because we didn't have the full facts, which was an important lesson for many of us. If we have it, let's pick it. If we don't have it,
nobody likes whiners. People that spend all their time whining all the time, I really get on people's nerves. So stop whining. Stop spending, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this, please, we know it doesn't work. So stop whining all the time saying it doesn't work. If it worked, you probably wouldn't be sitting there. So nobody likes whiners, so stop whining. It is not every time you want to make a decision, you have to see the minister, the deputy, on every head. What is this thing? Where did this come from? Do you know how many people want to actually sit down and meet the Minister of Labor? Have you been to his office? There's hundreds of them. What is this thing like, I have to see you, I give me your cell number? This phone doesn't stop ringing.
Yeah, welcome back. In fact, this is the edited version which got him into trouble. I'm looking for the longer one where you can contextualize what he said. It gives a better appreciation of the issues, unlike the distorted view that you come away with when you watch the one which we just played. I hope that we can get it. We'll bring it to you. But let me come in to the studio and talk to my colleagues.
Yes.
Moment, when I watched the longer version, which is on YouTube, I really felt that even though I didn't attack him when the shorter version was played, I thought that we would have been better informed if we played the longer version. And that some of the reactions were misplaced looking at the shorter version. I don't know about you.
Exactly. You know, my own experience, one of the lowest points of my career came as a result of the fact that there was a video about me in an interview with somebody put on YouTube. A lot of people saw the video and I was lambasted. In fact, I was taken to the slaughterhouse and slaughtered for that interview. And that was because people had just watched 15 minutes out of a 60-minute interview. They didn't bother to find out how the interview ended. For them, the 15 minutes was enough to draw conclusions that
about your competence.
About my competence. I was gullible, I was stupid. People even wrote letters to my employers to sack me. You know, but they did it. And even when we played the whole show again, back on TV, they were not interested. We discussed the issue on Talking Point on GTV. People were still not interested till date. People meet me and they were like, why did you interview a fraudster? Why were you that gullible? They didn't even take their time and they still don't care. And so because of that, anytime anybody is accused to have said something,
you want the full facts.
I want the full facts. Because I know that, look, we can be very unfair to people by just, you know, sometimes, and those of us in the media, you go for a function, somebody speaks for an hour, you choose a soundbite of just 30 seconds. Yeah. Sometimes that doesn't represent the whole truth. And so when you take the person's speech out of context and place it within a context that you want, it can make perfect sense to the listener, and they'll draw conclusions.
Let's not do that. Let's take the full one, and then when we come back, Moment will conclude, and then Walanyo will take his bite.
Perhaps to the chagrin of some of my colleagues, at the age of 40, I took a decision to resign as the Vice President of Coca-Cola Africa and packed my family and moved to Ghana. I'm not sure if my family still have completely forgiven me yet for that fact, but that is something I decided to do because that was important. And I'm going to try and use my own example to explain maybe and share with you why I think that was probably the most important decision I've ever taken in my life. I recollect at the time I took the decision that I was sitting on President Kufuor's Investment Advisory Council. And I had, fortunate enough at that time, I was sitting at 5 other presidents' economic advisory councils. But when I came to Ghana, I think I was the most critical. Maybe because it was home. I lamented the fact that I couldn't get a home. Things didn't work. I really had a go at all the ministers. I just kept at it. And in one of the meetings, the president turned around and said, you know, one of the problems with you diasporans, not that we don't want you. You complain and tell a very good story, but whenever I ask any of you to step up to help, you run so fast, you can't believe it. A year later, I had resigned and came and headed the Ghana Investment Promotion Center under President Kufuor. So perhaps I took that challenge. I gave up my British citizenship passport so I could take this role that I have. And so now, I guess, I'm not sure if I can still call myself a diasporan, but I'm standing in front of you as somebody who sat exactly where you're sitting, made some of the hard decisions I know you are thinking of, and perhaps I can share with you some of my experiences to help you as you transition this journey, because I believe it's a journey worth taking. I will say some home truths that you may not like, but you need to hear it. Because as you make a decision to take this journey, you need to be aware of where you're coming from. So the first area I'm going to start talking about is you as a diasporan, your approach as you come back home. How do you approach it? Do you know something? Let me share something to you, and I will use a lot of British words here, so please forgive me. Nobody likes whiners. People that spend all their time whining all the time, I really get on people's nerves. So stop whining. Stop spending, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this, please, we know it doesn't work. So stop whining all the time saying it doesn't work. If it worked, you probably wouldn't be sitting there. So nobody likes whiners, so stop whining. The second point, it is not every time you want to make a decision, you have to see the minister, the deputy on every head. What is this thing? Where did this come from? Do you know how many people want to actually sit down and meet the Minister of Labor? Have you been to his office? There's hundreds of them. What is this thing like, I have to see you, give me your cell number? This phone doesn't stop ringing, yet we have an office. Your approach is important. When you are talking to people and you are talking down to them, you are not likely to get a lot of reception coming the other way. Remember, phonetics. There's a reason why they invented the word phonetics. The way you speak English is different the way I speak English now. So understand that some of the colloquialism that you use are not what is used here. Think about your approach as you approach this opportunity to bring what you have learned and gained to bring forward.
You're welcome back. You're watching Editors Forum. This is even a truncated version of what Robert Ahomka Lindsay, Deputy Trade Minister, said when he went to a forum of diasporans in Accra here. He was roasted for making those comments. I watched the longer version. I thought we were being unfair to him. I don't know what my colleagues think. Mumin has experience he's sharing with us.
Yes, so like I was saying, because of my own personal experience,
what was the man's name? The man you interviewed, what was his name?
Foster Atamensa.
Foster Atamensa.
Yes.
Okay.
And because of that experience, I have stopped judging people based on the bits and pieces I hear.
Sound clip.
You know, until I hear the whole clip, I don't. And so when I first heard about this report, I said, well, it would be unfortunate if actually this is what the man said. But a minister at that high level, I doubt that he will, at a summit like that, talk to those caliber of people in the manner that he was prepared to have spoken to them. And so I waited until I saw the final, the full clip, which he himself directed, because he issued a press statement.
Yeah, to that effect.
To that effect. And that was when I knew there was a longer version. I looked for it and I watched. Then my perception then became clearer. I think, yes, there was a bit of a minus to some of the things he said. But again, I think we have taken it out of context and over-highlighted it, so to speak. In language, and I did a bit of literature in English. I know there's a term known as hedging. And so if I want to say something that will sound unpleasant, I'll say, for instance, you are a fool, so to speak. And so the so to speak then minimizes the effect of you are a fool. It reduces it. And so you realize that he used hedging at a point. He says, let me get you, let me get on your nerves. He actually said that. He said, let me get on your nerves. That was a bit of hedging. So please, allow me to annoy you a little.
And he said, I'll be using a lot of British words, so forgive me.
So forgive me. So he had actually prepared the minds of the people that I am going to be as blunt as possible, but please don't take it to heart. This is all it means. And so he proceeded. And tell me, if anything the man said was a lie, he spoke the truth the way it should be spoken. He says, look, your approach is important. He says, our phones never stop ringing. He says, hundreds of people are always waiting to see the minister. It is not possible for individuals to see the minister as soon as they make a call. It takes time. And so your approach is important. I don't think he said anything that was so severe in an insult that we have highlighted it.
Nonetheless, the people took offense. Nonetheless, the people he was addressing, one of them took offense. And he said, we've got the money, we've got the expertise. So when you invite us here, don't say we are whiners.
Sorry, before Olanyo comes in, I think that the man who took offense, his main issue was not just about the language used by the deputy minister, but the fact that the people they were expecting to come and meet at the summit were not there. They were expecting to come and meet policymakers, and that the policymakers were not there. Even those who came would deliver their speeches and leave. And that, for me, is what offended this man much more than some of the things.
In fact, on Ghana Connect on Joy FM, he actually said that the car park was crap. And so he had a litany of issues already before he got in.
So it wasn't really the issue of whining, because for me, if it was that, we've just created a storm in a teacup.
Well, I know.
Malik, I think the man himself, after listening to him, and when I heard, in fact, when I first saw the video of the minister making the comment, I was like, hello, am I listening to my minister? You know? But, you see, like you are preventing me from saying certain truths on this
Say
platform.
them without using expletives.
You
Thank you.
don't want me to speak, and
Talk,
that is,
Walanyo, you
that
have
is
been
my
talking
problem.
for more than an hour. Just don't
my
use...
deputy minister tells these people that it is not just coming back as a professional, but it is also that you must accept that the way things are outside of where you are coming to, it doesn't play here. We have issues of water, electricity, roads. So if you are coming to set up, even as a businessman, you are coming to set up a factory. These are the issues I'm trying to make you understand.
And aware of.
And aware of. We have people who left this country, went and spent 20, 25 years, came back, all of a sudden, they want the same system that applies in the US to apply to our situation. It won't apply. It won't apply. And even he himself said he couldn't, even at the car park, he was finding problems. This is just a basic example the minister is trying to open them to. There's traffic situation in Accra. It's so bad. Are you prepared to come back with? These are the realities. And we don't expect a minister to go sit in front of these people. In any case, these are serious people with good money anyways. We want them to come back and put the money in our economy. We don't expect the minister to come before them and then lie to them. Make it look all rosy. Oh, Mumbra, everything is okay. The guy comes to set up a factory. Water is not flowing. He can't get electricity. He's running on a gen set. His investment is going. What do we expect the minister to say?
So he was.
And I am so surprised at the politics of the language and how we edited it so nicely. We edited the Ahunkalisi's speech so nicely, and then we made it look as if he's disrespected somebody. He has not disrespected anybody. He has just told us the truth in the face. And he's telling the people in the face. I think the part where the gentleman responded to the minister, where his frustration was to the effect that decision makers and people who can play the power game were not there. I think he had a legitimate position there. You understand? Because the bureaucracy alone in seeing a minister, in bringing a deal, in who you have to go through and who you have to see and all these things, it is so frustrating. So I take it that the minister was misunderstood. The politics too took a huge tone on the speech that he made, and we all ran along with it only to discover that no. In any case, seriously, the minister is saying something. You move into a ministry. Maybe you want to go into agric, maybe irrigation. You go to the agric ministry. You don't have to see the minister necessarily. There's a director in charge of that department. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, but
so he's only trying to let them know that you do not necessarily need to see me as the minister to get your things done. Well, you see, people sit in this country and wait. You understand? 3 months, 4 months, come and wait. I'm waiting to see the minister. When eventually the minister will tell you that go to see the department head.
That's right.
That's what the minister is saying. He's only telling you that you don't need to see me to get that irrigation project going. So if I'm going into irrigation or I am going into, let's say I want to go into transport, for instance, do a copycat of what the Ayalolo buses are doing, and I'm bringing in 400 buses, I do not need to see the minister.
Yeah, because the OAs and all of these ones, they didn't have to.
So what has the minister said? That is different. Well, he's only telling you that you will come and see me anyways. But at the end of the day, I'll still direct you to the right person with the. That's what I'm saying. That you see,
is it exactly what he was talking about? The complaints afterwards. Is this exactly what he was talking
Boss,
about?
what did he say?
Hold
The
on,
minister
hold on,
first said, I am going to say some real issues here.
Walanya, hold on.
You don't even want me to sound real.
Walanya, hold on.
But what I'm saying is, he first said, told the people that I am going to sound this way.
Listen
not
to
because I
listen,
disrespect you,
Mumin has
but
said
because
that.
I want to open up the issues
Mumin
to
has
you
said that.
because I'm also a returnee.
Mumin has said
I have
that.
been in your shoes, but it is not a clean walk.
That point has been
You
made.
will be stumbling.
That point has been made. The point I am making is that what Ahum Kalinse was talking about and the reaction to it was that vintage Ghanaian, because the same system that we are talking about, that these guys are complaining about, the Lebanese come here and they thrive. The Chinese come, they thrive. The Lebanese don't go and see a minister before they thrive. The Chinese don't go and see a minister. But when the Ghanaian comes back home, that Ghanaian wants to see a minister and wants the minister to come and sit down before
You're wrong.
So is that exactly what he was talking about? That the Ghanaian is it is
Malik,
inherent in our nature
wrong.
to whine.
Malik, what we started with the issue of Galamsey, and well, we didn't mention any particular race, but we all know we've been talking about the Chinese, and you have brought in businesses, so you're talking about the Lebanese and so on and so forth. Who fronts for these people? They have Ghanaians who front for them. You are in the media.
But
you
the
know,
point
you know
I am making is that they don't have to go and see a minister.
They don't have to personally
before
go
it
and
will
see
happen.
a minister, but they have somebody
Who is
who
fronting
sees
for
a
them.
minister or some powerful
That's it.
person on their behalf. It's the same story. Our ministers are so powerful. I mean, the executive is so powerful that nothing can be done
Without
except through them. And so people know this. And so if you want to be successful, if you want a contract, and you want to go through the procurement process, and I'm waiting to see if the appointment of a procurement minister will bring anything
Will
different.
change anything.
Yes, you still have to know
Now you have to
somebody.
apply online anyways.
You have to know somebody who knows somebody who has a foot in the Flagstaff House or in some minister's office somewhere before you can have access to a contract, even though there's a procurement agency. Our structures are there in our books, but they don't work.
So we have parallel structures.
Exactly. So it's not, when you say that the Lebanese do not have to see a minister, the Chinese do not have to see a minister, Malik, I beg to differ. You're wrong. They have to see a minister in order to get things going their way. And I believe, and forgive me if you're a minister and you're watching us, I believe that the ministers and those in powerful and responsible positions, they enjoy this kind of attention. Because invariably, it inures to their benefit. Because when
Is
people
it
see
also
them,
the case that those who want to go and see them, like Walanya is talking about, when you go and see them, they direct you to go and see the right people anyway? Is it also the case that, and sometimes we know that you can go and see the chief director or somebody else, but we want to see the minister. Is it that we too want to, we also revel in the fact that we saw the minister?
I don't know how many state agencies you have tried to work with, but even the director on certain decisions will tell you, this one, please go and see the minister. They cannot act on their own except when they are instructed from the very top. And so, I mean, politics rules everything.
So have we set up a system, and yet we complain about the system which we ourselves have set up and from which we profit?
You see, the issue is not about we going around the system. It's also about how it fits into who is in that office, into their policy. Eventually, the minister just doesn't make a decision. He makes a decision that fits very well also into the president's programs. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, he's also looking at a situation where decisions that he makes, decisions that the chief director is likely to make, decisions that that director of that department is likely to make, whether it sits very well or fits into their program. So then eventually seeing the minister becomes very, very important. When naturally, if the laws or the
so why is the minister now complaining that there are too many people who want to see him?
No, that's not the issue. You see, if you listen to Ahunka,
if you set up the
is always
system, why are
trying
you
to let us
complaining?
know that you are in. You are in. But it is not necessary. You see, he's only trying to let us look differently at the way we have been doing things all this while and say that maybe today we should do things, or we should look at the same situations a bit differently. The minister, please, let us be very careful. The minister is just a political appointee, as powerful as he is, but he does not know all the technical issues and have every knowledge about every issue. So you coming in and saying, I have to see the minister, I have to see the minister, I have to see. In any case, you see, he made a point. Your approach, what homework have you also done? Okay, you are coming in as a brother from the diaspora. Yes, we need your hard money, your dollar money. We need it seriously in the economy. But whilst coming in, you talk about the Lebanese. Who told you that the Lebanese, they just jump in? They do not just jump in. Not even the Turkish, who are also now, flexing around. They have people here who do the homework for them. You understand? They have not just Ghanaians. Because when they come, they sit on the back of other Turkish or Lebanese people who have already established.
And talking about
and
that
they
in
do
the
their,
longer
No, I'm
version,
saying that they do their homework.
And
the minister made an important point by saying, the minister made an important point by saying, your approach.
I'm saying in that longer version, he actually pointed out to them and said, some of them come and within 2 weeks, they want to buy a house. And he said, where you are coming from, can you buy a house in 2 weeks?
That's
but when they come to Ghana, you want to buy a house in 2 weeks. And the guy who is selling the house knows that, okay, they can get some money from you, even if they don't own the house. They can go and take somebody's house and sell to you.
Thank you.
And take the
so
money.
What
you
examinations have
and
you
then
done?
You come and
what
build
approach are you using? Who has helped you? Boss, if you invited us onto this program, we are not just coming here to come and talk and inflame passions or trying to attack anybody or go after anybody. But the question is that, what homework have you also done? It's your hard money. So tomorrow you go back and say, these Ghanaians, I was trying to buy a house. Don't know, the house they sold to me is somebody's house. And it's created a whole lot of problems. The matter is in court. And I have to be going and coming. You don't have that time even in the US. So what homework have you done? The minister, who is a former investment promotion center boss, left and came back. And he used himself as an example by saying that even my wife didn't like the idea. Because you see, boss, when you come here, it's no rosy. If you have your water and your light flowing in your house 24 hours, 24/7, in the UK, you come here, you come and set up a small tomato factory or a pineapple processing juice, small thing, and you can't even get water to power your machines.
So you think the criticisms against him were misplaced?
I think that the politics of what the minister said is so misplaced. We in fact, look at what was even shown to us. They had edited it, had forgotten that the man had even put himself online by saying that, look at me, it has not been a clean path journey. It has been a path of roughness, stumbling, falling down and other things, but I had to adjust. So he was talking about not just himself, but approaches.
I think that our major bane as a country has been the over-politicization.
That is it. The politics of it took all of us.
Yes, so to the extent that some people think that, well, if we present what he said in this way, if we frame the issue this way, we will score political points. And so we end up politicking every 4 years. We don't have a break. We only have a break on the 6th or 7th of January, and then we start politicking all over again.
But Malik, it's very interesting that even in that vein, the minister still came out with a statement explaining in 5 points by saying that, look, I took the issues from here. But who is making political capital out of this? But who does it suit? Who is profiting from it?
You see, we can look
if
at
you
it
know Rob,
if
if you know Ahunka listen very well, you know that seriously, he's not somebody who is arrogant. He's not. He's someone who is easily approachable.
I understand you, but whilst we are looking at people making political capital out of it today, let's also look at the people make political capital out of seemingly previous comments which were not harmful. Did people make capital out of it as well? Yes, people did. We must at a point all come together and decide that, look,
we need the job done.
We need the job done, whether in opposition or in power.